y'all. Welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures. Last time we ran into Nicolina here, who was actually pretending to be an old man, and we were able to discover she was the prima ballerina that escaped her troupe in Shanghai with the tiara. And now that we finally discovered her real identity, we should be able to talk to her and look around and things like that. So let's start with talking to her. Let's go with what happened last night. Did you know that someone was killed in the cabin next door to this one last night? One of the crewmen told me this morning when I was eating breakfast. The man who died. He was a friend of mine. Oh. That's why we're trying to find out what happened. Did you notice anything unusual last night? Perhaps you heard a strange noise, for example. Perhaps people talking?
Perhaps the ship was absorbed in a wild tempest? Perhaps its steam engine exploded?
Perhaps everyone on board would have noticed if that had happened? Miss Pavlova, is there anything you can tell us? I don't know. I'm sorry. But all I could think about last night was what I had done and whether they would find me. I didn't notice anything that was happening around me. Oh, I see. Alright, running away. You've run away from your ballet company, haven't you? The Novovic Ballet? Yes. I am traveling to Great Britain. And from there, I want to go to America. I will never dance again. I want to forget everything about the ballet. I will start a new life.
You wish to forget? A challenging proposition. When you have that striking tiara as a reminder.
Well, maybe she's gonna sell it for some money. But the tiara is mine! I need it to live! I have no money of my own. The Novovic Ballet gives us only a little food and water. And we must dance all over the world. I had to run away. I had no choice. If I stayed, it would have killed me. So you ran away to protect yourself? Yes, and the crew of the ship, they have all been kind to me. They let me come on board, and they said I could hide in this cabin.
If that is indeed the truth, Miss Pavlova, it creates a most intriguing conundrum.
Yes, it does. What do you think about it, Mr. Naruhodo? Me? Oh, well, yes, of course. I think we should hear Miss Pavlova's explanation. To what conundrum, I'm not sure, but...
Alright, conundrum. Miss Pavlova, allow me to pose you a riddle. According to this newspaper, it was only yesterday that you absconded from the ballet. Now, that being the case, it must have been last night that you boarded this vessel.
She not talking at all.
However, the SS Buria stopped by no port last night.
Ah, that's it. Of course.
So how is it, pray, that you come to be aboard?
She's still not talking. Now that I think about it, the crewman outside the cabin acted very strangely when we mentioned that. It was just after we asked him about when the occupant of this cabin came aboard.
Right, he said that wasn't our business. And then said that the person in the cabin had nothing to do with the case.
Yes, you're right. He did seem to be hiding something. An angel descended from the heavens, bringing grace and beauty to the stage. Sorry? What was that? It is how the Russian newspapers described one of my performances. And that is how I came here too. I descended from the heavens, because I am an angel. Okay. Considering English isn't your mother tongue, your description is very vivid. Mr. Sholmes once said, "I never can resist a touch of the dramatic." It seems Miss Pavlova is the same.
A genius descended from the heavens, bringing grace and beauty to detection. Words once said about myself. A quote from a wonderfully extravagant advertisement for the adventures of Herlock Sholmes, in fact.
Yes, Mr. Shelby. Anyway, it doesn't look like Miss Pavlova is going to tell us what really happened. Well, I guess we'll go to friend. There's not really much connecting the last subject matter conundrum to friend, though. So, the friend you mentioned is inside your traveling case, is that right? I don't think animals are allowed on board, according to the rules of passage. Oh, please, don't tell! Don't tell any of the crew! If they found my precious...
Then the burly Russians would bestir themselves in unison to throw you and your case overboard, no doubt.
So reassuring, Mr. Sholmes. But what sort of pet is your friend? A little puppy? It is, isn't it?
If a puppy was in a case that was like that, girl, you committed animal cruelty, because ain't no way for that dog to breathe. She shook her head no.
Maybe an adorable little rabbit?
Ha! You credit Russia as a land with small rabbits, do you?
Oh. Don't they have small rabbits there then?
You may well ask. I have no idea.
Well, Sean's just be talking, man. I can't stand him. Ah.
You two are miserable bunglers when it comes to understanding the nature of young ballerinas as friends. Isn't it obvious? It must be a chicken.
Really?
Consider the benefits. Oh, please, by all means, explain. A rousing wake-up call. Daily fresh eggs. And when adversity strikes, it could satisfy the needs of sustenance.
So you'd eat your friends. I'll remember that.
She still shook her head no, though. I'm sorry, that was a crazy thing to say, Sholmes. Literally, where did you get that from? Well, it would appear this friend's identity is a closely guarded secret not to be revealed.
She obviously doesn't quite trust us yet. There's something I should like to show her, I think. Maybe she might be able to shed some light on it.
We got something to show her?
Ah, the diary about the speckled band?
Okay, well, first things first. Let's look around. We should finally be able to.
Oh, still? Okay.
Shut up, Sholmes.
Alright, well, let's present her. This is the diary of my friend who passed away. His diary? Yes, and he wrote in it last night before he died. Something a little unusual. It reads, 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. And then, a few minutes later, 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. A speckled band? I don't understand. It's strange, isn't it? But the ventilator he mentions joins to this cabin, you see? It's up there on the wall. In other words, this cabin and the victim's cabin are connected together. Oh. Miss Pavlova? Has something occurred to you? Does the speckled band the victim mentioned mean something to you? Or the whistling sound, perhaps? No. I don't know anything. Oh.
How could you not know anything? Because the speckled band that Cosmo was talking about wasn't dangling from the ventilator in his cabin. Clearly, it's nothing hanging from your ventilator in your cabin, but it had to have come from your cabin. Uh-oh. Excuse me, Mr. Roylott. She put that back on quick, didn't she? Wow, she's fast. Captain would like to speak with you. You must come to Captain's quarters at once. Please.
All right. I will come now. What?
You must leave. Now, oh no, as soon as you leave, we finna look in your room.
Oh, no, it's fine. Don't mind us. Yes, please don't worry yourself, Mr. Roylott.
Get out! The passenger said out, or you want me to throw you out?
It looks like we'll have to leave investigating this cabin until later. What a pity. And so we lost our chance. Having still not managed to investigate Miss Pavlova's cabin, we were unceremoniously chased out. That is to say, we were quite literally picked up and thrown into the passageway outside. Now, to be continued. We're gonna keep going, though. Video just started. Yeah, we'll save. I've only been here 15 minutes. Alright. Oh, I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. I wish we'd managed to find some clues as to what that speckled band might be. We didn't manage to investigate at all. And I imagine... Oh, dang, now he posted up! That we won't be able to for a while longer. We'll never get past that sailor guarding the door. He's clearly glaring at us, as if to say, don't even think about it. Oh, wait a minute! What is it? Well, what happened to our great detective friend? Where did he go? Oh, yes! He's completely disappeared. When did he do that? He slipped away as quietly as the wind, but not before ensuring these were securely back on my wrists. Back to Kazuma's cabin. Maybe he's in here. Looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes. On that subject, I wonder if Inspector Hosonaga is unscathed. What do you mean, unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you, Naruhodo-san? Don't you remember what he said about allowing you out of this cabin to investigate? He was going to talk to the captain about it. He said he'd lay his life on the line for you. Oh, yes. But I'm sure he was exaggerating. Let's see what he has to say for himself. He might have some new information for us. You never know. Alright. Well then where is he? Over here. But first let's talk to this one first. Let's talk to this one first. You! Where did you go? Oh, sorry, I just went to the next door cabin to... Why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, Seaman Hosonaga did. That new Japanese, was it? Later, I will roll him into ball and throw him in cold room. Katamari damashi. Like, what? Roll him into a ball. Ooh, he's gone back to guarding the door. Oh, I hope Inspector Hosonaga doesn't find himself in too much trouble on our account. He's really gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? When we get back to Japan, we'll have to take him for a steak at Le Carnival. That could be a very long time from now, Naruhodo-san. Okay. Inspector! Whoa! Oh, they jumped you? Inspector! What happened to you? Your face is... Please, don't worry about it. They're just scratches. I'm sorry, fam. That's more than a scratch. You have a black eye. Made by a bear, maybe? When I told the captain that I'd given you permission to investigate, he told me he'd pummel me with his fists and then toss me overboard. What?
but the pummeling was over in a flash, and he must have decided against throwing me overboard. So it was nothing, really.
It looks like he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Well, thanks to your efforts, we now know a little about the neighboring cabin.
Yes, so I understand.
Oh,
I bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. I think his name was something like Herlock Sholmes. I don't think he was German, though.
ah, that explains it. Shall we compare notes then? We can tell you what we found out.
Yes, let's do it. All right, cabin next door. What? Nikolina Pavlova? She's in the cabin next door?
Oh, do you know who she is?
Please. What self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know that graceful angel?
All right, I'm sorry. Got you worked up. Now you're bleeding out both sides of your mouth. Oops, I think I upset him there.
Well, that tells us the neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case, at least. You're the second person to say that. What makes you so sure that she's not related to the case?
Oh? How?
Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? Well, it depends on what movie you watch, really, but... Oops, now I've definitely upset him.
Inspector, has your investigation in here proved fruitful?
If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. So I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job.
Oh, I see.
Ah, there is one thing. I do have a small piece of new information for you. Oh, by all means, we'll take anything.
What? Yes, do tell us, Inspector. Please.
All right.
What is this new information you have, Inspector?
It's this. The Burial's medical officer has finished his examination of the body. I managed to obtain the report.
Oh. Kazuma's post-mortem report? Kazuma-sama. So, what was the cause of death?
Damage to the cervical vertebrae is what's written in the report.
Cervical vertebrae? He broke his neck?
You know how hard you gotta hit somebody?
His neck was broken?
Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious wounds or other signs of injury. So at first, I think they were considering poison. But it turns out they found no trace of poison in his system at all.
Well, what weapon was used then?
Nothing has been found as yet. But the fact that there are no signs of a wound suggests it may have been a blunt object. Something that wouldn't leave a mark.
Once again, do you know how hard you would have to hit somebody? Is that even possible? To hit somebody so hard, it would result in a broken neck?
Poor Kazuma.
Oh, I see. all the body's nerves run through the spine to the brain. A strong enough impact to the neck could induce death. It is a possibility, and no obvious wound would be left. Poor Cosmo.
That's what I just said. I have a second copy of the report. If it might be useful, you're welcome to have it.
Really? Are you sure?
Yes, it's fine. I trust you. After all, if I didn't trust you, I'd never have agreed to you leaving this cabin in the first place, would I?
Ah.
Hosonaga, a real one. Okay. Before I get to the great detective, let me look. The time of death was sometime between 1 a.m. and a little past 2 a.m. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. The victim's neck was almost certainly broken as a result of a strong blow to the area. No obvious external injuries or traces of poison. All right, the great detective.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes was here, was he?
Yes. He seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept about on the floor investigating. But then he suddenly left. I suppose he must have become bored.
Did he say anything at all?
Actually, now you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. "It's shoe polish!" was all he said.
Shoe polish? I wonder what he meant. Oh, that scuff on the floor right there?
It was when he was over there, by the piece of broken glass. Do you see?
Ah. Perhaps he was talking about this brick-colored mark, do you think?
Yes. That must be it.
But how could Mr. Sholmes know that it's shoe polish?
That leaves me cold, I'm afraid. I have no idea.
What is it, Susato-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a very dark tan hue.
Dark tan? A sort of dark brownish red, then.
Yes, a little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repaired them for him. Oh, does this mean that this mark was made by the polish on Kazuma's shoes as they scuffed on the floor?
Okay. That's really all I can tell you at this stage. I should return to my post. My fellow crewmen's eyes are boring into the back of my head.
Yes, that might be for the best. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I don't want you to get beat up anymore, man. You've done enough. All right.
Poor Inspector. You look exhausted.
Oh, no. Well, I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asoki-san. It was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. The truth is, I seem to have had a heavy head ever since I woke this morning.
A heavy head? That's interesting. My head's still throbbing too.
Huh. Ryunosuke has a bad headache. Susato seems to have a bad headache. She didn't say anything. And now Hosonaga-san has a bad headache too. I wonder what it could mean. All right. Now what? Back into the passageway?
Ah! Look, Naruhodo-san! Seaman Stroganoff has gone! Strong enough? The burly Russian sailor who's always crossing his arms and glaring at us. Ugh, all these Russian names are hard to remember.
Excuse me?
Did you hear that? Sounded like someone singing.
I really can't stand Herlock Sholmes. I really don't want to say this. I'm not gonna say it.
It's caroling. I know that lark-like voice. Well, never mind that now. This is a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you're right. We must seize it. Let's get inside Miss Pavlova's cabin while we can and investigate. Definitely. Before that stringy knot crewman comes back. It's Stroganov, not Stringy Knot.
Why did I click this instead of going to move and then... Okay. We in here.
Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Susato-san. Oh, where's she gone? Hey, what are you doing? Those are her private things. There's not a moment to waste, Naruhodo-san. We must investigate as quickly as we can. I suppose you're right. For Kazuma's sake. Not just for Kazuma-sama. What do you mean? It can't be long now until we arrive at port. In Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. Really? We must solve this case, Naruhodo-san. By ourselves if we have to. Yes, we will.
Right. As usual, we're gonna go from left to right. If something is important, I'll let you know, show it, what have you. Back. So basically, her case is open. There's nothing inside it. If she does have a pet, we don't know where it is. The saucer on the floor looks like it was placed there deliberately. Check the trash can, there's barely any trash in there. The books on the shelf were knocked over. Susato fixed the books up like she did the bookshelf in Kazuma's cabin. And yeah, that's it. I've looked at everything, so now I guess... I don't know, we go back to the passageway?
Oh, it's Mr. Sholmes. Look. Wow. You never know where he's going to turn up next, do you?
You really don't. You really don't.
He seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself.
Tra la la, lira lira lay. I did it the great detective way. I'm not singing, I'm sorry. I'm not saying it in his voice either.
He's still singing. Do you think he hasn't noticed us? Or
I'm so upset by him I can't even speak properly.
Or he's simply in extremely high spirits.
Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, it's lucky Herlock was about.
Excuse me.
I solved it all, and I stood tall. I did it the great detective way.
Mr. Sholmes!
Okay. Okay. Ah! What is it? You want to fight? Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing, and I was just about to reach the climactic finish.
Sorry. I thought you were never gonna stop, so I figured now is as good a time as any.
I very nearly dropped you to the floor with one of my famous right hooks.
All right, I get the picture. Now could you put those fists away?
Unbelievable. Mr. Sholmes. Relax. It's over now. Relax. Calm down. Ooh. Find the voice.
You seem to be examining something before we interrupted you.
Ah, yes. That. I was immersed in the study of the ship's log, as penned by the stockily-built crewman who's usually on guard here.
Oh, yes, the ship's log. And did you find out anything useful from it?
Well, after 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of the entries are blank.
Which means that there was nothing to report. Nothing of note happened, so...
You truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it.
Sorry?
Your logic, my boy, is inverted.
Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes?
Observe the other pages, and all shall become clear. It would seem the same crewman oft stands sentry in this first-class passageway, and he has an almost religious practice of recording nothing to report every half hour.
Oh, he writes that in every 30 minutes? Nothing to report?
Precisely! Put simply, the seaman writes nothing to report when there is just that. And yet, the ship's log from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. I just realized...
The ship's log from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. Do you mean...
Yes, there were circumstances afoot last night, which led to the seaman being absent from his post.
What kind of circumstances? What happened?
That remains a mystery for now. But we can be sure something significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribing nothing to report in the log. These are important details. I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file.
Okay. Now that deduction was worthy of a great detective.
Ah, you're starting to understand what my way is, I see. What makes Sholmes brilliant.
Oof.
Ouch.
What is it? Are you hurt?
Oh, don't worry yourself. I seem to be afflicted with a throbbing head this morning for some reason. Nothing more.
Ryunosuke, Susato, Hosonaga, and now Sholmes all have a very bad headache. Just keeping up with numbers.
Well, my friends, until our next encounter.
He's still singing to himself. I can hear it as he wanders off down the passageway. Is something wrong, Susato-san? You seem lost in thought. It's just... Well, I feel this...
We already knew that. You having headaches too.
Ever since I woke this morning, I've had something of a headache. A sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too?
And that's it. We're not going to mention anything else about it. Everybody and their mama got a headache. If we not all saying just, oh, that's weird. I guess, do we head back to the cabin?
Ah, what's that?
Somebody pulled that alarm. Shut down the engines immediately. Vessel sighted 1/4 mile forward. Oh, vessel sighted. Full stop. Hard to starboard. All hands, brace for impact.
What the... I think we're about to crash into another ship. What? I can't stand... Susato-san, hold on to me. Susato-san, are you alright? Are you injured at all? I think I'm fine. Thank you, Naruhodo-san.
Everything's toppled over. Oh, look, the books on the bookshelf toppled back over too.
Kinda like how they were earlier. Which means this boat did exactly what it did just now. Last night. Looks like we avoided a collision, is what Ryunosuke said. I think... Yes, the ship has come to a stop. Oh my goodness. What about you, Naruhodo-san? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Hello, is anybody in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... Inspector Hosonaga. Is that you in there, Naruhodo-san? Unbolt the door. Quickly. And the door bolted. By itself. What? The bolt? Look at that! The door's bolted. Did you do that, Susato-san? No, I didn't touch it. Well, that's strange. How did... And look at all the books. They're just like they were before again. Naruhodo-san, aren't you going to open the door and let the inspector in? I'd better tidy this place up first. Our violent emergency stop had solved one mystery at least, in a very vivid way. But I knew that what awaited us on the other side of the cabin door would not be pleasant. I hurried around, tidying up the cabin with a new sense of foreboding in my heart. To be continued again? Somehow, the door to the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Susato-san took a deep breath, then gently slid back the bolt. Pardon me for looking down. I was looking at my phone. You! What you are doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? Ah, suddenly she's Miss Pavlova and not Mr. Roylott. Interesting. Ah, you both look unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine, thank you. What on earth happened? We heard something about how we were going to collide with another ship. Oh, really? Yes. It appears to have been a false report, though. Oh. How did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought he saw a ship ahead. This person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is chaos. Passengers are screaming. Crew are running everywhere. This first class area is the only quiet part of the ship at the moment. Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm? Does that mean that someone pressed that button outside? Where's your disguise? Since you want to talk about people. You wicked intruder, dressed all in black. You are the devil! Sorry, me? I've been called a lot of things before, but devil is a first. You opened my traveling case. How could you? No. No. Your case was already open. What? No. We didn't touch it. That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came into your cabin. Inspector! How you know he an inspector? Arrest this man. I know he did it. He is a criminal. Is it not enough that he has killed a man? Duh! And he is stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe? Oh, y'all in cahoots. him away. He is a trespasser as well as everything else.
Stowing away, trespassing, killing. She is right. You are a devil.
It doesn't look good, does it?
There is cell below deck. Throw him in. Tomorrow we dock in Hong Kong. Then we give you straight to police.
Wait! A cell? Please, Inspector Hosonaga, is there nothing you can do?
This is a Russian vessel. I really have no jurisdiction here. After my last effort to appeal to the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. Yeah, man, considering you got beat up, if you try to do something now, they might actually, like, you for real.
This is terrible. This is a real crisis. I've got to find a solution. Immediately.
Okay. What are we doing?
Do y'all see what I'm talking about? Why is he hanging like that? What the? What are you doing up there? Mr. Sholmes?
Why do you have the tiara on? Naturally. I was analyzing what a weight of 20,000 rubles feels like on one's head. Have I not told you that as a detective it is my business to know what other people do not? This is mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no, no.
Well, why were you hanging from that hook before then?
Isn't it obvious? To properly assess the weight of the 20,000 rubles. Naturally. I wish to determine if it would bend that conceited-looking hook on the wall, so full of brag and bounce.
I never know whether to take this man seriously or not.
He has some redeeming qualities, but like overall, very unserious man.
Ah, you again.
The great detective. Ah, Inspector. I confess I've been looking for you. I have something to report to you most urgently.
Well, you might try looking for me somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time.
What is to report? Speak. An urgent report from a great detective can mean but one thing. Yes. The case of the curious murder that took place last night, here on this vessel, the steamship Buria, has been solved. By me, naturally.
What? Really?
Yes. I have eliminated all other possibilities. No other explanations exist. So, allow me to illuminate all your minds. For I am about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. Huh! You have solved it. Even Hedgehog understands this case. We all knew who was responsible for killing student boy this morning when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is this stowaway, and he has handcuffs to prove it.
I didn't do it!
The trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim. Because, as everyone knows, the cabin door was bolted shut from the inside. That means the culprit must be someone who was inside the cabin.
Yes. It's what's called a locked room mystery in detective stories.
Duh! Locked room! That's his point!
The room was locked. Well, I can't deny that. There's no way the bolt could have been drawn across from outside the cabin.
You are all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all.
What?
Oh yes, there is another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. What other entrance? We never discovered one. He's talking about the vent. Why, it gapes open-mouthed at you even as we speak. The ventilator, man! The ventilator? Ha 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 ha! You think this is funny? I cannot even put my arm through that hole. That's because your arms are as thick as tree trunks. You're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening? It's not possible. Ah, but it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. His diary.
Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Are you referring to the words Kazuma-sama wrote in his diary? 1:23 a.m. I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill.
Precisely, my dear madam. But what does it mean? What is this speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin.
Mr. Sholmes?
What are you doing? There is a distinct element of danger, but fear not. I am ready. What I am about to expose for you all to see will shock you to your cores. Behold!
A snake! It's a snake! That's where those marks around his face came from.
Allow me to introduce you all to the band. The Speckled Band.
A snake?
Indubitably.
Everybody quiet. Mr. Sholmes? Just one thing.
Pray, what troubles you?
Well, that snake isn't really speckled, is it? It looks more stripy, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. I think in this case you'd have to call it the striped band, wouldn't you?
You both see and observe, with distinction. However, do you not think that is precisely the trap into which the culprit wishes you to fall?
Oh, my goodness, really? It's a trap? How exactly?
I think perhaps it is time I explain the intricacies of my train of thought. Are you ready, Miss Pavlova?
I'm sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death is nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me.
There are two conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number one, last night, your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. And number two, that same friend was responsible for the victim losing his life.
No. She's turned as white as a bowl of rice again. Sholmes must be right. He's hit the nail on the head.
This young woman's friend killed Mr. Asogi?
Can't talk with that snake on your head. It looks like he can't speak with that snake coiled around his head.
I would advise as little movement as possible, Seaman. You wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So, everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular.
All right. Intruder's identity.
Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death is nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain.
Okay, that wasn't right.
And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So, we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? Ah, as I suspected, another telltale glance. Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us.
That wasn't right either.
And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band, whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night?
No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this.
Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing to conceal, can only be the snake's sloughed skin. Evidently, after the subtle and horrible crime, this most deadly friend of yours shed its original skin. No?
I don't know what you are talking about.
Last night, through the ventilator visible in this cabin, your then speckled friend slithered next door. Using the bell cord on the other side as a bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. In the dim light, it appeared to the young gentleman who was about to lose his life as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a rare breed of snake, whose markings change each time it sloughs its skin. A snake so dreadful, we can only imagine it will be found in the deepest depths of India.
Topic 2, how Mr. Asagi died.
Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I have been apprised, it would appear there were no visible signs of injury.
Ah,
In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. So that's wrong. Now, if we take that as a fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime.
oh no. Could there be?
Yes, an examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. The almost, but not quite, imperceptible puncture wounds left by the venomous fangs will seal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of the snake bite delivered by your terrifying friend.
This makes no sense.
It really doesn't, because, Kazuma wasn't poisoned. There's no point feigning ignorance, Miss Pavlova. And there also were no visible marks on his body. After the incident, you endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. Your serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt.
You don't...
It is telling that the victim made note of a low whistling sound that he heard minutes before his end. That was your signal, was it not? The sound you had used to train your serpent friend.
To... train?
Indeed, you'd put the serpent through this ventilator and wait. After a period, you'd summon it back with a whistle. You couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would listen for signs of life next door. If the victim appeared not to have been dispatched, you'd release the snake once more. Do you deny this snake has undergone such training?
It's not true!
Having slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its fangs in once. And its venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the speckled band that took the poor young man's life. There can be no doubt. My logic is infallible. Alright, now let's correct you. Because, look at how they look. Miss Pavlova has trained her pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor, you will observe a saucer of milk. The promise of food is the key to training any creature.
Incredible. You solved the mystery.
Amazing. Your great deduction really lives up to its name. I see now why Herlock Sholmes has become such a household name. My dear man, it was nothing remarkable. As the Russians say, I could have done it with one left hand.
Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Sholmes?
But of course, what's on your mind?
It's just about your deductions before. Some things don't quite make sense to me.
I welcome questions as to my method, and will answer both loudly and proudly.
Oh, well, good. First of all, snakes are egg-laying creatures, part of the reptile family.
You are well informed, madam.
And reptiles, don't drink milk.
Ah.
It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see? So, I'm not sure it would be possible to train a snake using milk as a reward.
No matter. No doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Milk was merely an example. The logic holds.
Well, there is something else. Snakes have no ears.
Ah.
Yes, so I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal to a snake by whistling.
But madam, what of the tales from Arabia? Have you not heard of the snakes that dance to the sounds of a flute?
I think perhaps the performers played their music in time with the snake's natural movements.
Oh, I see. No hands, no feet, no ears! These creatures are so inept as to be practically useless!
Don't take it out on the snakes, Mr. Sholmes. There is one other thing.
You have more! Yeah, you getting toe up!
Snakes use the scales on their bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure that a snake could manage to climb up a flat bell cord like the ones in these cabins.
Then it should try harder.
Please, don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snake had gone through the ventilator to the next door cabin, it couldn't have come back without help. What I'm trying to say is that there are a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. I think we need to step in and help again, Mr. Naruhodo. Alright, let's do it. Skipping through the dialogue till we get to the question mark parts and fixing them. Come on. Making hard is wrong. She does have a pained expression on her face. Yes, that's true. She looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. But you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be some other way to interpret her expression then? Let's take a moment and look really closely at her. Claw scratch. Oh, so she has a cat? It's like a scratch made by some kind of small animal. And fairly recently, too.
Indeed, and simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh.
Miss Pavlova, did you in fact receive that scratch sometime last night? When I think about the young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse.
And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So, we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that... Okay. Right. Not the servant. I'm sorry for skipping through dialogue. I'm just trying to not have this run so long. Yes. Oh. No! My first penalty! Okay. Supposed to click it and then examine it and then... Okay, it's the cat. There's a scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear.
The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Darka is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind.
Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. Okay, we move back. The specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. So now he has to change course. He's still talking about the snake. It's a cat toy. I hate how he just goes with the flow and just acts like, yeah, I knew that. And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it.
But why? For what reason?
My dear boy, there can only be one answer to that. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return.
Ah.
In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Darka. A truly troublesome feline, young Darka is proven to be. She must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova.
All right, that's one down. It was after I gave her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Darka, she is so naughty.
All right, that's one. Now we go to two. And I think after we clear this one up, we're going to end it for the time being. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter. The grim demise of the victim. Right, skipping on through. It's not venom. Right, so we gotta let him know he wasn't poisoned. Ah, yes. I knew it was one or the other. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Get on my nerves.
His neck was...
Indeed. The breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that.
Seaman Stroganoff isn't some immortal freak, you know.
The jury is out. Anyway, we have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime.
And then we'll move to the next one. It's not the body.
We're getting through it. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish.
Shoe polish?
Indeed. Positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now as a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results. The undeniable ingredients of shoe polish.
And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asugi's lace leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asugi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. Please, no.
And by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life.
I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asugi lost his life?
Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence, and then we move on to the next one. It's not the case. What's in there? It's a broken piece of glass. Looks like that other piece of glass that's in that one little photo where the shoe polish scuff is. Do I present the wastebasket or do I go in there and press it? Okay, got my answer. Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact.
Precisely. We found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asogi's cabin. And as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. Oh no.
So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not?
I don't...
I don't know. And that hushed Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question. Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell...
Yeah, the picture.
If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from Darka's collar, the very glass bell in question.
The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall.
And the cause of that fateful stumble? Your absent feline friend, Darka. I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry.
Death by tripping over a cat is crazy. But hey, I've seen 100 Ways to Die. Stranger things have happened.
Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She was so fast. She disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her.
And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it?
Yes. And I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me.
Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really.
So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping.
So at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again? By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin.
Dorka always loves this toy. But it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So the faint whistling sound Kazuma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet.
Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened.
Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then...
Really?
I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards... Nothing. It was totally silent. Kazuma was...
From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Buria is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards?
In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator.
Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen.
I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again.
Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am!
Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake?
You're right. Where is it?
If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it? And where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship?
Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Piroshko. That snake belongs to you? He escaped from cage when the emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here.
Yes. How did that snake get into this cabin?
But animals are not permitted on board. Ah! We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands?
Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better?
But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Piroshko does not have venom. He is harmless. Very long, but very gentle. He is adorable, like Granny. It's venomless? Yes. Now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile.
And you feed him... what? Milk, I suppose?
Like they say they milk chickens. Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Piroshko eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses.
Ah. Oh, so is that what the mouse trap in the passageway out there is for?
Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food?
Well, nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now.
Oh, you feel some kind of way, huh? It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord. And it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Piroshko has nothing to do with this incident.
So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Just one question. In the waste bin, the other half of the cat's bell was in the trash can. How did she manage to get that? How did she manage to get Darka to come back? Miss Pavlova? I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. What are you talking about, Miss Mikotova? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it.
I confess. I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter.
Oh.
I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction.
A distraction?
I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. You don't put the cuffs back on me, especially as they're on your wrist as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call.
You were, Mr. Sholmes?
Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours, was he not?
Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. Didn't I say I was going to stop after the Dutch and I'm still going? It just crossed my mind. Oh well. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion.
No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes. Whatever that may be. The key to this is a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. All right, I'll see what I can do.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo.
So then, shall we begin?
Yes.
Actually, we're gonna stop right here, because
This thing is almost 2 hours long. We will pick this up and press Miss Pavlova on whatever lies she told in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this part of The Great Ace Attorney. If you did, be sure to leave a like. And if you want to see other episodes of Ace Attorney so far, I have a playlist where you can go and you can watch everything in order leading up to this point. And if you want to see other things and look forward to other things that I do, hit the subscribe button. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.